The record of instant enlightenment. Martial arts place mental discipline as the foremost principle. In all endeavors, if the mind does not function correctly, success is unattainable. Even if one masters the techniques of omitachi, in the moment of combat, the mind always acts first. This may lead to hesitation, the body freezing, or succumbing to fear, rendering one unable to move freely. When the mind is disciplined, the body becomes supple, the eyes function accurately, and one can gain the upper hand. For instance, when a general commands an army, no matter how well trained the soldiers are, if the general's mind is disordered, the soldiers cannot perform effectively. The mind is the general, and the limbs are the soldiers. Even if the limbs move, victory is difficult to achieve without a disciplined mind. This principle must be understood above all else. When the mind is disciplined, the enemy's sword is no longer a threat. When the mind is finally disciplined, the enemy's sword ceases to be a danger. To say it is no longer a threat means reaching a state where the enemy and oneself become one. Once the mind is in order and the limbs move freely, entering beneath the enemy's sword is no longer a challenge. In the beginning stages, one's hands may tremble, and the mind may not yet be disciplined, making it difficult to approach the enemy under their sword. However, when the mind is prepared, one can move with lightning speed while maintaining a calm heart, even beneath the enemy's blade. For beginners, it is important first to learn sword techniques thoroughly, then gradually train the mind and study the art of combat. No matter how skilled one is in omitachi, without a disciplined mind, victory is impossible. This is akin to studying calligraphy for years yet being unable to compose a proper letter. Reflect deeply on this point. From stillness to motion. In martial arts, all powerful movements are born from a state of stillness. However, stillness does not mean a body that is weak or frail like that of a child. One must understand this principle well. Quiet the mind. For example, imagine water contained in a basin, remaining undisturbed and still. If a channel is created on one side, the water will immediately flow in that direction. If the enemy strikes at this flowing part, one can instantly retreat. Yet the entirety of the water remains undisturbed. The stillness of the mind resembles water in this way. Thus, when the mind is in order, the body relaxes and becomes flexible. This relaxed state of the body is called stillness, say. Approaching the enemy effortlessly in this state allows one to clearly see the enemy's sword movements, up, down, left, and right. One can then strike, entangle, or cut down the opponent. If one approaches the enemy with a distorted and unprepared body, the mind will not function, leading to confusion in front of the enemy and misjudging their movements, which inevitably results in defeat. Therefore, the foundation of martial arts is to first create a still body and then move with strength. When riding an untamed horse, one first mounts it gently and then strengthens control later. The initial gentleness is to enable stronger control afterward. While horses lack intelligence, humans possess it, yet this intelligence often leads to confusion, making it harder to reach this state. One must take this to heart. Nature itself follows this principle. Energy is stored during winter and released in spring. Humans sleep at night and awaken in the morning. All things begin in stillness and then move toward strength. To shoot a powerful arrow, one must draw the bowstring gently at first. If pulled violently from the start, the arrow will lack force. Similarly, the correct mental discipline applies not only to the sword but also to horses, spears, and all other pursuits. When riding a horse, one begins gently and later transitions to strength. This natural harmony is considered ideal. If one starts with excessive force, the load creaks, the body collapses, and the horse cannot gain momentum. Therefore, by disciplining the mind and acting calmly, the body remains still, the saddle stable, and the horse gains momentum. Ultimately, everything begins with the mind. Start gently, then grow strong. Stillness brings relaxation to the body, stability to the saddle, and strength to the horse. All of this stems from the mind, which must be cultivated with care. The importance of maintaining health. In martial arts, maintaining one's health is of utmost importance. On days when one neglects this, neither poetry nor martial arts can be performed well. The waist and limbs will not function freely. Particularly on days when performance must be optimal, one should prioritize health the day before. A mind free from regret. From beginner to master, a true martial artist harbors no regrets. Clinging to regret weakens the spirit and ensures defeat when faced with a formidable opponent. Thus, those who study martial arts must discard preconceived notions. Martial arts are not for the sake of others, they are for oneself. One must strive with unwavering determination, undisturbed by criticism. Recall the words of ancient scholars. Act for oneself. The attitude toward matches. When participating in a match, even if using a bamboo sword, approach it as though wielding a real blade. Furthermore, imagine encountering an enemy and prepare yourself with the thought, "At this moment, I may perish." With such resolve, the spirit strengthens, the mind remains unyielding, and the lessons learned manifest accurately, allowing one to achieve victory. This has been a timeless teaching. A swordsman must heed it. The essence of swordsmanship. The essence of swordsmanship is like water. While stances may differ among schools, ultimately, all techniques converge into a single stroke. Regardless of form, the goal of cutting down the enemy remains the same. Water, when placed in a square vessel, takes a square shape. When in a round vessel, it becomes round. Though its form changes, its property of buoyancy remains constant. Similarly, though there are many stances, kata, the purpose of the sword remains singular. Therefore, dedicate yourself fully to defeating the enemy. Even if one masters countless kata, failure to win renders them meaningless. Conversely, one who lacks mastery of advanced kata but contemplates victory in combat can be said to have learned well. The philosophy of Iaido. The philosophy of Iaido centers on focusing one's energy in the lower abdomen tanden. For instance, even when facing tens of thousands of people, one must approach with a mindset that renders them powerless. Similarly, in a vast hall, one must expand their presence to fill the space and calmly draw their sword. The draw should be high, the grip te no uchi soft, and the blade tip steady. The balance of softness and hardness. The body in softness, yuwara, has no fixed form. Softness, as the ancients said, overcomes hardness. However, softness does not mean weakness or frailty. Softness and hardness must coexist. The human body naturally embodies both softness and hardness. Focusing solely on softness leads to frailty, while an imbalance between the two results in dysfunction. Since the body is inherently equipped with both, one must use hardness when necessary and softness when appropriate. Solely relying on softness will not subdue an opponent. Ultimately, one must refine their natural abilities as a human being. The martial artist's mindset. The nature of martial arts values unwavering confidence. Acting like a drunk who doesn't care about anything, view nearby enemies as insignificant and always consider yourself a master under any circumstances. This is the mindset of a martial artist.